All signs point to this, as one of the Islanders' top prospects has signed a contract in the KHL. We're going to discuss what this means, both for the development of this player and also his future with the New York Islanders. In addition, considering that we are talking about KHL players, figured we'd also talk a little bit more about Maxim Shabanov and what I expect from him when it comes to the Islanders this season. Really quickly, before we get into that, we are on the road to 2,000 subscribers as the Islanders season is finally coming closer. Yes, it does mean the summer is almost over, but Islanders hockey is right around the corner. It is our goal to have 2,000 subscribers when that comes back. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you have, appreciate all the support as we continue to make Islanders content. We do have some news today when it comes to Islanders top prospect Daniil Prokhorov. He has signed a two-way contract in the KHL with Dynamo, and this is a pretty good franchise to be associated when it comes with the KHL. Pretty good when it comes to development, reputation. He's going to be playing with good players, but it's also not too stacked of a team where he's not really going to have a situation where he's going to be able to play in the line. It's a really good balance for Prokhorov. But what this does mean is in the short-term future, he will not be coming to North America. And I don't think this is an issue. I think this is actually the best case scenario for Daniil Prokhorov, especially considering that it is a two-way deal. This is actually something really important to consider. This does not necessarily mean that he's going to be playing in the KHL. He might start off in the VHL. In fact, the way the deal is structured, it seems more likely that he is going to start in the VHL. Just means based on the amount of money he is making, he's likely going to have to earn his way up to the KHL as this season goes on. And some fans might be concerned about that. They want him playing at the KHL. Personally, I think the VHL is a perfect step up for Prokhorov. Prokhorov is a prospect, to be honest, I was a little unsure of when the Islanders first drafted him 42nd overall this season. I just did not know what to expect. He wasn't a player that was completely on my radar, and then he really impressed me when I saw him on the ice in Long Island. And the fact that he was even here playing for the prospect game really shows that this is a player who is more committed to coming to North America sooner than later, which is a great sign for Islanders fans. I know there's always concern when it comes to a player signing in the KHL. 2 years like this is really no concern at all for the New York Islanders. In fact, him signing a shorter deal, a 2-year contract like this, really makes it so that in 3 years he could be playing in Bridgeport, which is exactly where you want him in 3 seasons. Really an ideal situation. And considering that he played in the Russian Junior League last year, and while he had a decent amount of points, I feel like he looked on the ice when he played in the rookie game. He looked better than what his points suggested. As a result, I think the VHL might be the right step for Prokhorov, because this article goes on to talk about how big he is, how he's a hard hitter, and that's why he was drafted in the second round. And I agree. I think there is a lot of potential for a fourth line grinding player in Prokhorov. But to be honest, watching him in that prospect game, I felt like there was a lot more than that. I thought he had hands that I really didn't hear anyone talking about when they were covering his draft. And as a result, I think it's important that he plays a role in the VHL, which is basically the AHL in the KHL, where he'll be having a chance to play top 6 minutes, because I think these are the minutes that this player needs to play. I don't think this is a guy who is limited to a bottom 6 role, and if that's going to work, he's going to have to play time in the VHL, playing top 6 minutes rather than the KHL. Well, it would be nice for him to get some pro games in this season. That would be awesome, especially considering how good a league the KHL is. I also don't want him being a full-time fourth liner. I don't think that's ideal for his development. As a result, I think this is really perfect. And the best part, again, this is only a 2-year contract type situation. We've seen other prospects sign for way longer. Kirill Kaprizov was in the KHL forever. I mean, just looking this year, the goaltender that the Columbus Blue Jackets just drafted, he signed a contract where he's going to be in the KHL for the next 5 seasons. This is not the case for Prokhorov. This contract is really ideal, where instead of playing, for the record, in North America, he couldn't even play in the AHL anyway. He'd be playing in the CHL, which I frankly think is slightly below what he is ready to do at this point. I think this is perfect for his development. Hopefully he spends most of the time this season, at least in my opinion, he plays most of the time in the VHL, maybe earns a call-up towards the end of the season, and then next season he gets to play a full season pro. I think that'd be really ideal, and then he can come over to the Islanders, likely get his feet wet when it comes to North American ice, because again, they do play a different size game. I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem when it comes to Prokhorov just because of his sheer size. And I think this is now the perfect transition to talk about a player who is going to be playing for the Islanders next season in Maxim Shabanov, who really is, in terms of physicality at least, the exact opposite of Daniil Prokhorov. Prokhorov being 6'5", almost over 200 pounds. Shabanov is definitely not that, and that's where I think some people have concern with his game. Personally, I'm not concerned. I'm expecting a really big season from Shabanov. I hate to expect so much from a player playing their first season in the NHL, but at the same time, I think he deserves that expectation, and I'm really excited to see what he does for the Islanders. And I'm also really excited by some of the quotes. We finally have interviews translated through his agent, and that's going to be one of the struggles when it comes to Shabanov. He is going to be working on learning English. Fortunately for the Islanders, he has several players in the locker room that can help him make that transition, so he isn't going to feel all alone. I think the way that Ilya Sorokin felt when he first came to the Islanders, but he said when talking about this team and why he picked the Islanders, because keep in mind, pretty much every team who could was interested in Shabanov. Just in the area, there was heavy interest from the Flyers and the New York Rangers. They were both assumed to be favored ahead of the New York Islanders, and then he ended up turning around, choosing the Islanders, even though realistically, if you look at the Rangers or the Flyers, their rosters have more of an opening for him. That excited me to begin with, because it just showed this is a guy who wants to prove himself. He wants to pick the team that's really going to be the best for him long term. And now we have a quote talking about why he picked the Islanders, and he says, "I don't know, I probably felt more in my heart that I needed to go there." That's really exciting. A player who just felt in his heart that the Islanders were a better place to go than the Rangers and the Flyers and other teams that were heavily interested in this player. Again, I think Vegas also really tried to make a bid on him. My soul is more with the Islanders. I'll say this: I listen to my inner voice. Really excited. That's probably the best quote you could possibly have when it comes to this player choosing the New York Islanders. And when it comes to expectations, there's just so much he does right in the KHL. Yes, there are concerns. Being 5'8", I understand the NHL is a physical league, but the KHL, I think, gets a bad rap when it comes to physicality. No, it's not as physical as the NHL, but if you watch the highlights, this is a guy who's dealt with plenty of contact. He's very elusive, kind of in the way where he skates the puck and it's hard to hit him, similar to a Mathew Barzal in that sense. He has great hands. He's a guy who likes to shoot the puck. 20 goals in his past 2 seasons. Keep in mind, too, the KHL is a league where there is less goal scoring. For him to put up over 20 goals in both seasons, that is really exciting. And even more exciting, he went from 25 assists last season all the way up to 44, clearly stepping up every single year he's played in the KHL. Although I will say that step up has definitely been towards his playmaking ability. If you look at his goal scoring, he went from 18 to 25 to 23. He's a very stable goal scorer. And what I think really tells me that Shabanov is different than a lot of these players who come from the KHL and just don't pan out is if you look at his playoff stats, there really is not a step back. He played 65 games in the regular season, and admittedly, some league teams in the KHL are not as equally matched as in the NHL, so it can sometimes be a bit easier to put up points, especially against those weaker teams. But you look at his stats when he played in the playoffs, because the KHL playoffs are very competitive. They went all the way to the finals where they lost. He played 21 games, and in those 21 games, he had 10 goals and 10 assists. He scored a goal in basically half the playoff games he played. It's exactly what you want to see, and this really shows me that I think this is a player who can make this transition, and as a result, I'm expecting a 50-point season from Shabanov. That's really what I expect at this point in time, until he shows me otherwise. Who knows? He could be even more impressive, really be the next superstar to come out of the KHL, a Panarin, Kaprizov type player, or perhaps he could probably be more of a role player, but that's just my expectation at this point. Love to know in the comments what you think of Maxim Shabanov. Like, what do you think his potential is going into next season? I really think if the Islanders are going to be competitive next year, he's going to have to be a huge part of that. It means he's 24. He can inject a lot of youth and excitement into this lineup, which admittedly has gotten stale over the past few seasons. And once again, what do you think of Daniil Prokhorov? Are you happy with that pick now that we know he is playing the KHL for the next 2 seasons? I was questionable at the time. Now I'm pretty thrilled with the pick, and I just cannot wait to see what happens with the Islanders this season. That's going to do it for this episode of Islanders Digest. If you have not already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. My name is Patrick Nilan. Catch you on the next episode of Islanders Digest. Let's go, Islanders!